Okay. Good, good. Okay, now relax. Deep breath. Here it comes, I think. One more time.
What is it?
It's the NeoRadio Hour.
Hi, I'm Peter Donalds. This is the NeoRadio Hour, home of independent writers, musicians, home tapers, the folk artists of the electronic age. We've got the usual eclectic mix of scenes, stories, and sound sculpture, along with a few neo bits from our own studios. Regulars Mr. Sunshine and the Malords are here. And in conversation, tonight, a friend of the NeoRadio Hour, Annette Dubois, speaks with fellow poet Steve Lavoie. Dubois and Lavoie, strictly coincidence. It's the NeoRadio Hour, where we promise to deliver the best of independent audio art.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. Est-ce l'avion pour Paris?
Oui, monsieur.
I'd call you last Tuesday, baby, but the phone kinda caught me off my guard. To tell the truth, I haven't been around, baby. The change is what I needed from the very start. I think it's time to leave this two-bit town, but I haven't got a solid fuck. Oh, what the hell I'm gonna do it, see you around, girl. I really just don't give a. I wanna go to Paris. I really wanna go to Paris. I said I wanna go to Paris, and I wanna go now. Precious coming from 100 different places. I'm not sure my heart can stand the strain, but I'm certain if I mingle with some continental faces, champagne and conversation needs to be. I give my left bank, baby, for a piece of Francais, and I'll get one too. Just wait and see. I'll be sipping Chateauneuf on the Champs-Élysées and chasing it with Burgundy, 'cause I wanna go to Paris. I really wanna go to Paris. I said I wanna go to Paris, and I wanna go now. A change of scenery is all I need. Greener pastures I should be. I might come back, or I might stay a while. Till I decide, just keep my car on file, because I wanna go to Paris. I really wanna go to Paris. I said I wanna go to Paris, and I wanna go now. I'd call you last Tuesday, baby, but the phone bill kinda caught me off my guard. To tell the truth, I haven't been around, baby. The change is what I needed from the very start. I think it's time to leave this two-bit town, but I haven't got a solid fuck. Oh, what the hell I'm gonna do it, see you around, girl. I really just don't give a damn. I wanna go to Paris. I
NeoRadio Hour.
Well, Doctor, I've been feeling a lot of anxiety lately.
I see. Go on.
It's my situation at work.
Trouble with coworkers?
Yes, actually, well, no, not really. I mean, it's not that really.
With
It's
your
just,
with your boss?
No, well, yes, I suppose.
Please, Mr. Nichols, try to relax. Take your time. Breathe. Good. Now, try to tell me what you're feeling about your situation at work.
Okay, well, I know I shouldn't let this get to me, but, well, there's been a lot of talk in my company about downsizing, and I know worrying doesn't get you anywhere, but I admit I'm worried about my job. Everybody in my department is worried, even my boss. Well, there are rumors and secrets, and, well, the tension. It's just unbelievable.
I see. Go on.
Well, I can't sleep at night. My work is suffering. I'm tense. You know, I'm tired all the time because, you know, I lie awake every night. We're living paycheck to paycheck as it is.
And
I lose my job.
what do you feel you can do about all this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm here, I guess. I'm just not happy.
Were you always unhappy?
What do you mean?
As a child?
No, I was very happy.
Did you attend college?
Yes.
Were you happy?
Yeah.
What was your first job after college?
I worked at a small newspaper.
And what did you do there?
Oh, a little bit of everything. You know, small town papers, reporter, advertising, typesetting.
What was your weekly salary?
I don't remember really, not that much. I had my own apartment, car. I had a pretty good social life, I guess.
Do you feel that you worked hard at that job? That you were productive?
Sure, I think I did. I put in my 40 hours. I was conscientious.
I'm sure you were. How about in your current job?
Yeah, I work hard. I mean, Monday through Friday, plus sometimes a couple evenings a week. Weekends, too. I hardly ever see my kids. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm productive.
Does your wife work?
Yes.
Full time?
Yes.
Does she work hard?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
2.
Do you live extravagantly?
No.
As well as your parents, would you say?
No, not at all. I mean, my dad, he bought a new car every year. We never go on a nice vacation like we did when I was a kid.
Did your father work hard?
Sure.
Harder than you work now?
No.
Did your mother earn an income outside the home?
No.
You're anxious?
Yes.
You're angry?
Yes!
You're perfectly normal.
But I don't want to feel like this.
Of course you don't.
I've been trying to help myself. I read this book.
Don't read those books.
But this was a noted psychologist. He's written several books
All
on the
the
subject.
more reason.
What?
That author has a book deal.
What?
Do you have a book deal?
No.
It's very easy for that author to tell you have to help yourself. That author is doing just fine.
But I need help.
You don't need my help.
Yes, I do.
You want me to help you to feel better?
Yes.
In spite of all you've told me?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols, anxiety, fear, anger, these are normal human emotions.
But I don't want them to run my life.
Nor do I. But under the circumstances, you'd be crazy to feel anything else. Your problems are not psychological. They are economic. They're social, political.
But I'm responsible for my own feelings.
Who told you that?
Everybody. Every book I've ever read says
Look, I
that
told you not to read those books.
It's the times we live in. I mean, there is no job security anymore. I've got to take responsibility for myself, for my family.
Who told you that?
My father.
The one with the secure job and a new car?
What are you saying?
Are there others in your situation?
Well, yeah. I mean, just about everybody I know.
And what are they doing?
I don't know. They're just doing their best.
And so are you.
But I'm unhappy. I'm anxious. I'm angry.
You've got every right to be. You're a victim of a rotten system.
You're a therapist. You can't tell me I'm a victim. That's wrong. I'm not a victim. I'm not supposed to buy into that kind of thinking. You're supposed to help me feel better.
Look, if a mugger beats you up on the street and steals your money, you're a victim. There's no shame in it. It's just a word. And a very accurate word, I might add.
It's okay to be a victim?
Of course. I told you, you gotta forget about what you read in these silly books. You're a victim. And a victim has every right in the world to feel hurt, violated, angry. These are valid feelings. You're going to leave this office, go right back to your life, and continue to be violated by an unjust economy. I'm not going to charge you $75 an hour twice a week to make you happy about being wronged. That's not serving you. It's serving the people responsible for doing this to you.
But what do I do? I need your help.
No, you don't. Look, join the underground economy. Become a radical. Drop out. Become a hippie or whatever it is they're calling themselves these days. This is really not my area.
So I'm normal?
Yes,
It's okay to have these feelings?
of course. You'd be crazy not to.
Doctor, I feel so much better. I can't believe what you've done for me. I feel like a great weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I feel happy.
You're happy?
Yes.
You do need my help. Our time is up for today. Make an appointment with my receptionist for next week.
It's the NeoRadio Hour.
A little slowness to calm me down. find a gift for you. I put on my fancy clothes and I smiled your way. You touched my hand, your face, it was aglow, and then you smiled back and said, oh babe, I need you so. But now I call for you and well, you're not home, and the way that we laughed last, well, it has my heart torn. But you gotta do it your way, and I've got to do it mine. It's just so hard in this life to feel good at the same time. And I don't know where that feeling's gone, but here I am, an empty body, and I'm thinking of traveling on. 'Cause everything just seems to come and go so quick. You know I'd love a little slowness to calm me down a bit. How I wish some rockin' arms had assured me that there's more to this life than all or nothing. Oh, I wish some rockin' arms had assured me that there's more to this life than all or nothing. 'Cause last Friday I was feeling love. I was feeling so much love. Last Friday I was feeling love. I swear I was part of the shining sun above.
Good day, my lord.
And a good day to you, my lord. How goes by you this fine day?
I have just received a capital assignment.
And what may that be, my lord?
Well, my cousin, the Earl of Fallimore, is giving a party for the king.
Our good King George, my lord?
No, let me continue. The monarch in question is from the arid regions of the Holy Land.
Who is this potentate?
He is known as King Moish, and we, you and I, Rosenblum, sartorial experts as we are to dress His Highness for the Fallimore Ball.
Splendid! I'll send for our tailor at once.
My lords, Skillworth and Rosenblum, send them in.
Your Highness!
So, you're the maven sent to doll me up for this party, huh? You look like a couple of sissy boys to me.
Would you excuse us, Your Highness? We must confer on a matter.
Skillworth, I don't like the tone of this brute.
Well, what should be done, my lord?
Give me those scissors, my lord.
But Rosenblum, the king's trousers.
Try these for size, Your Majesty.
Oh, right there, hey. Hey, what's this? My schlong's hanging out here.
Oh, Your Highness, didn't my cousin tell you that it's customary to flaunt one's genitalia at the Fallimore?
Really? Well, as they say, when in Rome. I don't know what you Englishes...
Sink me, Your Majesty. You look smashing.
So smashing it is.
And your scrotum, Your Highness, how it flows and ripples. Truly, you will be a sensation.
So this is really the style, huh? Well, I like it.
A disgusting tone of despise.
I think we fixed his wagon, though, my lord.
He'll be the laughing stock of all England by the time we're through.
Oh, fare thee well, Rosenblum.
And fare thee well, Lord Skillworth.
is Jesus. Make your heart sing.
'To Pete. Hello, Pete. This is Youthwake. You're on the air.
Hey, Rick.
How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great.
Good.
I was going to call to talk about something totally unrelated until you put Mark on there.
Okay.
It's so funny that you have Mark on there talking about how he was bound by drugs and everything, because that relates to what I was going to talk about.
Mm-hmm. What's your comment?
Well, you know, you're talking about what teens need, and I'm barely a teen. I'm 19. I guess I'm, you know, almost not a teen anymore, about to turn 20, but, you know, it's just so awesome what God's done in my life. You know, just give him the praise. You know, 5 years ago, I was already messing with drugs, you know, like Mark, and really in debt and stuff, you know. Borrowed a lot of money from people to keep my habit going. And I was living, you know, down the San Fernando Valley, and, you know, doing prostitution and stuff.
Pete, I hate interrupting. We're going to have to cut it pretty short here so we can get other callers. So if you could just wrap it up in about a minute or so.
Yeah, I'm really tired right now.
Oh, that's fine.
But, you know, I got healed at a W.V. Grant rally down there, and my back was healed, you know. And that was one thing, because that proved that God could do the supernatural. And he can, you know, he's awesome. He can do the supernatural. And then the other thing was just, you know, I'd had Christian girlfriends before, you know, but they didn't really, you know, they didn't seem to be living what they preached, you know.
Sure.
Finally hooked up, you know, this good Christian girlfriend who read the Bible and talked the talk and walked the walk, and just gave phenomenal head, and it really changed my life.
Okay, we're going to move on here to other callers. 787-1917. That's 787-1917. And tell you what, we've got to go to a break here soon. We'll take one more call, and then we'll do this after break, talk about some of the upcoming events, and I know there's some exciting things happening there. So, all right, let's go to Jeff in Irving right before our break here. Jeff, how are you doing tonight?
Good. You guys are doing a great job. It's wonderful to hear your ministry. And just right now, I'm being led of the Holy Spirit to say,
okay, well, we're getting some prankers. Well, let's go to break, and 787-1917. I tell you, live radio is so fun, isn't it, guys?
So now we got Mark Whitaker with us tonight.
Yeah, Mark.
And they're coming out of the woodwork.
Mark, are these your friends, Mark, or?
Okay, these are a couple poems that I wrote in obscure places. This one was written in my parents' backyard in Rohnert Park, California. It's called Natural History. The branches of the multiple trees and birds of all species native to the region, and disillusioned children down the block, and neighbors swimming, and salesmen, plumbers, retail clerks, and eligibility workers in their cars. The airwaves, miscellaneous international reports, the tobacco industry helpless without a match, and housewives in the habit of pounding pots in their backyards, and airplanes, rototillers, the cruise missile, each send their representative, and a small dog curled up beside a palm sends Titian to see what might do in the way of a frame for the contents of the over-the-counter exterior. A lawn moth hides among the relentless white daisies where once was a patch of sod. And this is called Blessed Are the Meek, and this was written in Escondido, California, where Gerald R. Ford loves to play golf. And you probably don't remember him, but it's called Blessed Are the Meek. Little wimpy kid into chess and postage stamps, and Gerald R. Ford, you can tell, looking so tough it hurts. Junk in the streets, not like the neighborhood's gray aluminum siding and glass. Little palmetto in front, looking beautiful. Ain't nothing else but thumbing through Old West, watching 2 or 3 bracy and skinny blondes waiting in line with lipstick at the photo booth. The fog like a sweat house, late September. I roll my gum and toss it over there at the trash bin. Now, since we're in obscure places, this is called Duluth, September 9th. The first snow arrived by rain, and at first frost, still on green grass. My bus was early too. It stopped at a Greyhound logo beneath a Western Union sign on a storefront along Superior Street near the first shop we once lived above. The driver got out and disappeared into an alley. There weren't any other passengers. I needed to get downtown, so I had to walk past the donut shop that got my weekly allowance. But that was Saturday. From the corner, I could see down a steep street to the lake, the river, the foundry, and the bridge. The bridge shows up on Greetings from Duluth with a blue sky painted in. You only see sun on postcards. Snow gathered at the waterline but melted on the beach. My coat was yet to come. Meanwhile, my jacket. She had stayed behind, but I knew that feeling well. I'd be used to it. But it's Sunday and gray. Downtown is desolate, familiar. One drunk Swede. The foghorns get started. They've never faltered, nor will their reminder. It is a view too Soviet to linger, and the hotel is still a ways. 9th floor, window on the street. In the rack on the desk, there were bridge shots. They'd had a paper left. I got the chair right up against the radiator. The cold was big. The heat turned out to be lonely. Okay, after a tour of obscure places, let's go to San Francisco. This is a San Francisco poem. It's called Equal Time. Out in real time, this supermarket, the depressing one, will disgust me for the rest of the day, dehumanizing as are all objects which fail to age and which don't deserve restoration. The particles of deterioration rain onto the patrons' cars. Letters of dust encode a message, provides an astringent. I hear it in a mid-range hissing after all the crud bunches up around the nib. Every minute counts, as much as a note hit a second late. Since I've started home, I wonder where an hour goes, into 2 grocery bags. Without a word, had the silence been conclusive, we'd have no future. I hear hum, already in it, but can't imagine what it's covering up. There's popping of coal in the fireplace. Hectic day after day, takes communication away. The telephone becomes extremely significant, but only its function, and it never rings anyhow. We have no affection for window glass, but less for a windy room with the drapes drawn. Water runs down the hall. She's sick on her birthday and takes a bath as she goes along the edge of a future and a past of equal dimension.
Poetry read by the author, Steve Lavoie, who is our guest in conversation today, coming up immediately. You're listening to the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art. I'm Peter Donalds, and let's go to conversation now. Steve is in conversation with Annette Dubois.
There's a lot of young poets out there recently that I've seen that are really into this, like conceiving, conceiving of emotional situations in these kind of finding terms for emotional situations, refusing to use language that we have to define it. It's kind of like they're looking for metaphors, yeah. And that was against the rules when I was learning how to write poetry.
Right. What was the rule? The rule was like tell it as you see it, tell it as you see it,
Mm-hmm.
or something, with something more concrete than that.
And say it as you would speak it.
Say it as you would speak it. Yeah.
But there seems to be more acceptance of sort of a theatrical kind of rhetoric that I thought was gone from American poetry. I mean, that was what was so beautiful about American poetry, was that it was coming straight from the language, and you would speak what you were speaking, and it seems like it's okay again to sort of take on personas that aren't in anything related to you, to who you are, so that young upper middle class black people can suddenly become street gangsters in their poetry, and it's somehow okay. I mean,
Maybe that's called acting. Maybe it's kind of misplaced.
Oh, acting, yeah. Maybe it's called acting. Well, we used to call it pretending, but I guess there's a relationship between acting and pretending.
Well, maybe, like the old teenage songs from the 50s, etc., had all this emotional stuff pretty up front.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And,
like Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Book of Love. Well, that was kind of metaphor. Yeah. Kind of the leader of the pack. It's pretty straightforward.
Donna.
Yeah, right. Peggy Sue.
Yeah, and then Chuck Berry, who was probably the greatest poet of my lifetime.
Yeah, his stuff was all, Nadine and Lucille, and naming names and instances. No.
Yeah, and writing about his experience driving down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, and not like trying to change the world, and not like not as a vehicle for some kind of expression of political views, or which is okay, but it has to be from that daily experience, because that's where the real enlightenment comes, and that's where the poetry becomes the meditation, which is sort of what it should be, I think, on one hand, and it allows, that's what allows readers to identify with who you are, because it sort of hits home that life is worth living.
Right, when the day stuff is brought into it.
Right.
Well, I was thinking about, this may sound trite, but like rap stuff that is mostly unglorified. It's like there's few sweet metaphors in that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's way different from that music of the 50s for good reason, but also maybe the poetry, maybe some young poetry is getting metaphorical because you want to try out some metaphors, and the rap is like pretty non-metaphorical. It's like I woke up this morning and it was a good day because nobody killed me.
Right.
That's pretty straight.
But I think the use of metaphors is like searching, is a searching for metaphor, like trying to make sense out of their lives, and that's what metaphors help do, is like make things relate to one another, make small things in your life relate to bigger things.
Right.
And that's definitely a sign of isolation and alienation, but
metaphors?
The seeking to define your life in terms of metaphors.
Yeah, or maybe it's but the drive to join the whole,
right,
is pretty universal.
That's pretty universal. Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to make your stuff grander than it is. It's like
sure.
Therapeutic. We say that.
Yeah, it's cathartic.
It's cathartic.
Yeah, but and that's another example of, I think that need to be cathartic is also a sign of looking for something bigger, looking to something to fill in the emptiness and
longing.
Longing, yeah. Yeah, and which is good. I mean, that's one of the uses of poetry. Unfortunately, I think that it's only a very small aspect of it, because there's also this need for a poem to exist as a work of art, as an object of expression, and seen in those terms, it really has to be. It has to almost have its own kind of substance on the page. And to do that, you really need to be very much attached to the present.
Mm-hmm.
And I think searching for catharsis and searching for the metaphors is kind of a way of jumping beyond the present and not paying attention to what is immediately before you, and the beauty and the value of the small things in life, But maybe I'm too Buddhist.
Well, you get to there's a lot of poetry is rife with searching for the perfect metaphor. And if you go that route, you never do live in the present, because
Right.
you're always on that plane where
Right.
something else will do much better than this.
Right.
So you ignore the present.
Right. Right. It's kind of like it's almost to me like people who are totally hung up on beautiful things and shopaholics and collectors of fine art objects or of weird kitschy things, and they're always looking for the next big score. And somehow they get gratified when they when they have possessed this beautiful object. And to me, that's just kind of a way of covering up the beautiful things that are just inherent in our lives. And I see poetry as a way of stepping back from the material realm and like really sort of seeing what is not material, that is really what gives value to our lives. And although I have nothing against beautiful objects, and I love beautiful language, and I love beautiful poems, and beautiful things, and beautiful women, and all that stuff, but I think it depends upon the process of looking. Where do you look to see that? And if you're capable of walking out on the street and seeing it wherever you are, I think then you have some great material for a good poem.
Yeah, I would agree, and I've noticed that when I'm shopping heavily, I'm not writing poetry.
Right.
And vice versa, so it's true. And it's
Right.
like, it's this basic dissatisfaction with material things. They only go so far, and you're not gratified. You just keep, it's like the metaphor. You go after the perfect metaphor, you go after the perfect blouse, or the
Right.
perfect white shirt, and
Right.
it's totally evasive, so
Right.
you have to settle with the okay white shirt and
Right.
the okay metaphor, if any metaphor.
Right. Well, yeah, or the turn of phrase too, which is another sort of irritating phenomenon with poets, is that they often, and I think I'm guilty of this too a lot, is I'm not satisfied with making the statement. I have to somehow find a way to make the statement in some kind of remarkably witty or clever or incredibly obscure and deep and pseudo-meaningful way. And oftentimes the language works best when it's just, you make the statement. And sometimes you make the statement, you go to jail. Sometimes you make the statement, you lose your job. Sometimes you make the statement and it makes a good poem, and sometimes you make the statement and it doesn't make a good poem. And I think that if you make the statement from the beginning, like, this is the statement I'm trying to make with this poem, and if you look at that statement and say, this is bullshit, and this is not a worthwhile statement, this is not what I believe, or this is not something I want to say, then it's not going to make a good poem.
Mm-hmm.
And so why spend 70 or 80 lines trying to make it into a poem when it's not a poem. And I think sometimes other writing besides poetry is very much based on that, that thesis antithesis thing. What do I want to say? Where do I want to go with this? And I think so often poets ignore that rule of good writing, and I think that's a mistake. I think that they should at least have some idea somewhere along the line where this is going, and what these pieces of language can somehow convey not necessarily in terms of meaning, but in terms of emotional impact or inspiration or whatever people read poetry for. So.
Yeah, I think I understand you. Is that it's doesn't require an outline per se, but
no.
But the idea begins. It's like when I've talk to story writers that if they're using characters, say the characters start to write the story, and that something happens in a poem that's like that too. It doesn't have to. For me, it doesn't have to be so well thought out, but something has to emerge to carry it.
Yeah.
Like an idea or a mission, as it were. And then, you've got something. If nothing comes out of it, you got a bunch of one-liners and catchphrases and and a witty poem, that doesn't say anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And jokes are fine.
Yeah, jokes are good.
But
an in-joke book or
Yeah, but it's usually just to keep your audience paying attention. But
and it's infinitely forgettable.
Yeah. But I think with poems, I think what's different is that what is compelling a good poem is a feeling, and I think that knowing what that feeling is, maybe not being able to identify it, but maybe the search to identify it or the search to make sense of it is a good approach to beginning a poem. And but again, you have to be careful about what the feeling is. I mean, you have to, if you know this is a feeling that you want to convey or that you think has value as a poem, then go for it. But if it's a feeling that really has no place in poetry, or really maybe no place in your life, then I think maybe you should not base a poem on it.
Yeah, like why glorify it if it's it's harmful to your audience or perhaps not so good for you.
Yeah, and instead maybe think about not finding a way to not have those feelings.
Right, and write about that.
Write about that. Yeah. Right. So and I think that like you were talking about rap, I think that's one of the problems that some of the rappers have is that because of poetry is a great vehicle for expression, they take the liberty to express a lot of their anger and hatred, which is they have the right to have and all that stuff, but I don't think maybe that's a good foundation for art.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too superficial, and I think the real mission of art is to go beyond those feelings and find a solution to surviving in a world with those feelings, and to go beyond those feelings, to allow them to transform themselves into something of value, something that's healthy, and something that can contribute to everybody's well-being as human beings.
Poet Steve Lavoie. I'm Peter Donalds. You're listening to the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art.
A few years ago, I organized a regular film night with a few friends. We'd take turns choosing a film. Once every couple weeks, we'd get together at somebody's house. The host would choose the video. We'd watch it together, then sit down for a potluck dinner and discuss the film. When it was my turn to host, I chose 1,000 Clowns, a 1965 comedy of real substance, based on the play of the same name. If you've never seen it, I recommend it. Jason Robards plays Murray, a quirky, unemployed writer who gets up at dawn to walk the empty streets of New York as though they were his own. Through Murray's vision, streets are valleys, skyscrapers are mountains. He spends his days flying kites, visiting the Statue of Liberty, and teaching his 12-year-old live-in nephew, Nick, the lessons of life. But when the work whistle blows, the film's Dixieland soundtrack gives way to the deafening drums of a Sousa march, as throngs of workers trample in uniform step over Murray's green valley, now converted into massive concrete conveyor belts. One day a social worker by the name of Albert shows up at Murray's door, along with his fiancée and co-worker Sandy, and on behalf of the state of New York threatened to remove Nick from the home unless Murray gets a job and demonstrates responsibility. Albert, along with Murray's brother Arnold, are so-called responsible members of society and provide wide targets for Murray's antisocial jabs and barbs. Social worker Sandy, fresh out of grad school, is more inclined to stumble into Murray's world, as indeed she does when she insists on staying on the case after Albert has given up. Sandy loses her job, loses Albert, and gets Murray. Director Fred Coe uses footage of real New Yorkers to create a brilliant satiric montage of white-collar workers wolfing their meat-centered lunches in a cult-like haze to the soundtrack of the Alleluia Chorus. Church gargoyles, Wall Street towers, briefcases, suits, and ties are presented as icons of church, state, and financial power. In the beginning of the film, Coe shoots Murray with extreme camera angles from below. We look up at Murray, giving us a surreal perception of him as both removed from and somehow superior to his surroundings. By contrast, shots of rushing workers are taken widely and from above so that we can see the patterns of their conformity and judge them accordingly. As the film and the story progress, though, severe angles diminish, along with our ability to easily judge the characters and their decisions. Murray's nonconformity is heroic, and then in the next moment, pathetic. His apartment is eclectically cluttered with brass eagles, clocks all showing different times, and bric-a-brac junk collected on his daily romps. Each piece calls out Murray's contempt for conformity, dullness, and dread. One character provides an uneasy compliment when he calls Murray's apartment a fallout shelter, protection from the idiots of the atmosphere. Of course, when Sandy, now a former social worker, moves in, she opens the windows, sets the clocks, packs away the eagles, and puts out flowers. This is an all-out frontal attack on Murray's sensibilities. Murray, caseworker Albert, brother Arnold, and Sandy. Each of them wrestles with the conflicts presented. Each of them truly wants the best for Nick, the nephew. In the end, one last character emerges. Like Odysseus, Murray has to face the true enemy, a demon without compromise. In this case, Leo Herman, alias Chuckles the Chipmunk, a lame television kid show host, and Murray's former boss. In the climactic next-to-final scene, Leo begs Murray to come back to his old job as a television writer, and while visiting, tries desperately to win over Nick. Leo is the devil whose mission it is to recruit the next generation into the ranks of the, quote, moaners and the shufflers, as Murray calls them. As he offers Nick 2 bags of Chuckles potato chips, he is offering the next generation pallid subsistence wrapped in bright, happy foil wrap. Nephew Nick's choice is between Murray and Chuckles, between being awake and being asleep. What is Nick's response to Leo? Does Murray lose Nick? Does he get a job? Well, that I'll leave for you to discover. This is the kind of film you can watch with some friends and discuss for hours afterwards. The issues, the dilemmas, the characters. It's a make-you-laugh, make-you-cry kind of movie, but not just because the filmmakers know how to push your buttons, but because the story, the direction, the performances, the music, they all earn every laugh and every tear. Viewing a good film, like any good piece of art, should be just the beginning. It should provoke emotion, thought, discussion, and a yearning for more. There are plenty of good films and videos out there. At rep houses, in the library, at video stores. On cable if you get the independent film channel. Once in a while on PBS, and maybe once every 5 years or so, even at the main theaters. Don't settle for the Hollywood crap designed to get your $8 and kill 2 hours. You deserve better than that. This is Mr. Sunshine.
The NeoRadio Hour is written and produced by Peter Donalds and Frank Skillman. Contributing artists this time around, Big Fun, Gail Schmidt, Brother Russell, Troy Sutton, Deborah Del Mastro, and Joe Groma. In conversation tonight, our own Annette Dubois spoke with poet Steve Lavoie. We hope you'll remember that everything you hear on the show comes from independent writers, musicians, home tapers, and we solicit your work every week at this time. If you have some work you'd like to send us, we'd love to hear questions and comments on the show. That'll do it for this time. Thanks for listening. I hope you taped it. I'm Peter Donalds.